and welcome to another episode of the Wilderness of Creativity podcast. I'm your host, Lucy, and today I'm so excited to chat with Jo Phillips, a fellow creative with an inspiring story. Jo has a master's in illustration and a wealth of experience in art and design. Along the way, she has faced some challenges, including a late diagnosis of autism, ADHD and dyslexia. She currently runs a successful handmade paper shop on Etsy called Paper UK, where her creativity truly shines. In the coming months, she is hoping to focus on developing her surface pattern designs. In this episode, we talk about Jo's education and creative process, the challenges she has navigated in her career, and explore how ADHD and hyper-fantasia enhances her creativity. Be sure to check out Jo's Etsy shop and head to the show notes for more information about the recent release of Mandy Nicholson's book, Beyond the Ordinary, in which Jo contributed a chapter. If you enjoyed today's episode, then please don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. Your feedback really helps other listeners to find the show and boosts our ratings. Right, let's get to the episode. Do you want to talk a little bit about your education and your background in art and design and how it's led you to where you are now?
Sure. So I was delighted to leave school and go at 16 to Amersham Arts College. And it was quite a journey there. I got up early worm and then did a travel on the bus 30 minutes, a train 30 minutes, and then a walk 30 minutes from my house. But I was happy as Larry, honestly, going to this college, and I did 2 years there, the GMVQ in general art and design, and I learnt all the foundation stuff. So you do sculpture and you do graphic design, you do woodwork, metalwork, digital, everything, bit of printmaking, textiles, the lot. And then you choose your path, and I chose to go to Norwich. I wanted to get onto the degree, but I got rejected and I had a flood of tears. But I ended up loving Norwich so much that I decided that I'd take the HND graphic design course instead. And I'm glad I did, really, because that really led me down a path of being, away from home and learning about living on my own and things like that. And then after that, I did a top-up degree in illustration and focused my attention on that. And then after that, really, I went to Israel. It was actually one of my special interests. I'm autistic, ADHD and dyslexic, so neurodivergent. And one of my interests has always been Israel and the Bible and things like that. And so I went to Israel and I did housekeeping out there. And during that year, I actually curated an art exhibition for Shavuot, which is a Jewish festival. And I got artists from all around Israel to actually come and show their work in this exhibition. And I got supported by the people running the guest house. But that was really great. And then I came back home and I was really struggling to find a job, partly because I didn't understand the process in how to get a job. The literal filling out forms was very difficult. I didn't know, we didn't really have the internet back then. And so I would, just randomly go into shops asking, do you need a graphic designer? It's not really the way to find a job. Often you find them, so I know now, through other people, or there's agencies now, but the agencies that I went to, they just gave me a warehouse job or washing up in a hotel. So I did a number of these sort of menial jobs thinking this isn't my right path either. Ended up at Sainsbury's on the checkouts thinking, what am I doing? And then decided to move to Golders Green, which is a very Jewish populated area, thinking that maybe I could do something there and at least I'll be closer to London. Maybe I can find a job there. Unfortunately, I still struggled to get any kind of graphics work or any design or illustration work. And so I sort of went on to do John Lewis at the gift list department, and it was only during that time that I actually met my now husband. We met in Starbucks in Golders Green, and he suggested that I join the police because he was a police officer in recruitment, and I was like, "Oh, well, you know what? I spent a number of years trying to get graphics job here, maybe this is my route, maybe." Yeah, actually, I quite liked Morse. Yeah, I really enjoy the bill. I'm actually quite good with, rules and things. Didn't know I was autistic at that point. And then I thought, "Do you know what? I'm gonna try it, because the other thing was that I was living in a house at that time, in a room, with people I didn't know in London, and it was just a dream to get a flat. So I went on to do that, but unfortunately, it was the very wrong path for me. Talking about making choices, I stepped in the wrong direction. Um, Many great things came out of it. However, I did end up getting a flat, things like that. But unfortunately, my mental health really spiraled down, and also my physical abilities were challenged, and I developed chronic pain due to the stress of being a police officer. Um, being a creative person in a very tight police officer role, and I didn't like, arresting people, and I didn't like having to be in that kind of environment. Learning the laws at training school was okay. I enjoyed that side of it, but then when I had to meet the public and talk to them and communicate, I found that really, really challenging.
So, what I'm hearing there is that you have such resilience, and you haven't lost sight of your path, of your interests, of your passion, but you do recognize that actually sometimes we do make choices in our lives thinking that they are the right path, but the impacts of those choices do have sometimes detrimental effects on our health and our well-being, physical and emotional, mental health, well-being. But you have stayed true to who you are and what you want to bring to the world, and I think that's something that our listeners will be really inspired by. You mentioned there that you didn't actually have a diagnosis back then. I mean, how tricky was that, trying to understand or make sense of your perspective on the world and the things that you were doing and seeing and experiencing? And when did you get that diagnosis, and what has it opened up for you?
A lot of autistic people say that, they felt like the odd one out. They felt like, what's happening? It wasn't so much like that for me. It's just when I was communicating with people, for example, I would take a product back to a shop, and I'd ask for a refund, and I'd get a funny look or whatever. And I used to just think, these people are idiots. Why can't they understand what I'm saying? It's not that I didn't have the self-confidence, but what it was a different kind of communication. Mine is blunt and matter of fact. And, when you are taking a product back that you don't want, apparently you're meant to have fluff, and you're meant to say, "Oh, hello, how are you? You know, this product's really not working for me. Unfortunately, would it be possible to?" But no, I would go, "This isn't working. I'd like a refund." And I don't have any malice or intention of being horrible or whatever. It's matter of fact. It's literal. And I used to just get huffy puffy people, or the waitress won't doesn't like me, or end up having arguments with the manager, or that kind of thing. And if you can imagine being a police officer already, how difficult it was to actually communicate with suspects. I would just be thinking, why aren't these people getting me? Why aren't they understanding? And it really, unfortunately, created a huge void in the fact that I didn't want to be around people, because I felt like I felt misunderstood, like something's going on. Why can't people understand what I'm saying? And I'm trying to get my point over, or people take things the wrong way. I'm never really been one for understanding what you should and shouldn't say in a certain situation. I've learned along the way, but if you can imagine, when I was younger, I didn't know these things, and it was really. I remember when I was little, I was at a party, and my mum rightly said, okay, what do you say, when we were leaving? And I said, oh, thank you very much for having me, but I don't want to come again. And that was honest, because I just didn't absolutely want to go again, because I hid in the garage because everyone was playing with balloons and popping them, which was clearly sensory
Oh,
overwhelm for me. And yeah, so I didn't want to go back. But my mum quickly pulled me away, embarrassed, and I learned that that was wrong to say. So
yeah.
I've learned along the way that what I shouldn't be saying. But it's even today, like, I still come out with some corkers sometimes, and people look at me like, what? But I have found my tribe now, and
Yeah.
it's I don't really like that phrase very much, but I tell you what, that first time when I went to a meeting and being around other autistic people, wow, the feeling of not feeling judged or misunderstood, and they find it really difficult talking to me when that noise is going on. I can't hear what you're saying because that noise in the distance is really bothering me. I can't hear
Mm,
you, and they're saying, yeah, I can't hear you, and we end up laughing because we understand each other.
yeah. And that feeling of connection and understanding and compassion and acceptance is just so important.
Yeah.
I think with what you're doing with your illustration, with your cards, with your artwork, within creativity, there is the freedom, isn't there, to just be yourself and express yourself as you are. And I think that is just so empowering, isn't it?
Well, there isn't, because if you are an illustrator, you get told by a client what to do, and 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 also, if they don't like it, they tell you what they don't like, and they
Mm,
tell you what they want. So you'd think, wouldn't you, that it would be great and creative and freeing, but actually it can be a little bit stifling sometimes, to be honest.
mm,
I'm trying to curate my life now in a way that has got a bit of that kind of thing, because I want to be able to connect and do projects and things, but also to be able to do my own thing. So I am designing my own patterns for surface pattern design and selling those. I don't want to create a brand as such with my patterns. I want to be able to license them, and that's the route that I'm going down now.
So does that mean that people can use them in their own work?
Yes, you can use them however you want if you want to buy one, but if you can imagine, Selfridges, for example, might put
Mm,
that on some of their packaging, or they might,
okay.
if you think of big brands, uh, even like clothing, curtains, stationery, they all have patterns or illustrations on them, which is called surface pattern design. So that's really where what I'm interested in. Not so much storybooks, illustrations in books, editorial, not that kind of stuff. I don't want to make a point. I just want to doodle.
Oh, I just want to doodle. I don't do a lot of doodling, to be honest.
It's very freeing.
I mean, I do. I tend to draw if I'm listening to a seminar or something like that. I will end up drawing flowers, but I do need to put pen to paper. I'm one of those people. I can't do things on a screen all the time. I need to actually physically be doing something with my hands. So, how does the creative process start when you are designing these patterns? Could you talk me through that? Because I don't know how to do that.
Because I'm so visual of a person, I have hyper-fantasia, which is a hyper-visualization. So
Ooh,
um, I don't know if you can do this, but when I talk to other people, they can't. If you can imagine yourself in your mind's eye, and I'm not talking literally having hallucinations here, in your mind's eye, flying outside the window, you're flying up above your roof, and now you're looking down over your house, and you can see it. Now you're going to go to the shops, and you're going to fly to the shops, and now you're flying up the street, and you're looking all into the shops and things. So yeah, I can do that, and so I can see the different colours. It's like full colour. I can stop, I can start, I can make it rain, I can make it snow, I can turn the lights brighter, like the saturation on your phone. I can visualize all of this stuff in my mind's eye. So it's also a matter of having collated everything that I've seen is in my head, and storage is like a big computer in there, if you like, and I can pick out things, and things come out randomly in my mind to just doodle and draw. Also, if it's more likely that you're either, they call it hyper-fantastic, which I kind of like.
Oh, I love that,
Yeah,
hyper-fantastic.
yeah. Or you can also be fantasia as well. So aphantasia is not seeing anything in your mind's eye, and some people can't visualize at all. They may end up getting sort of words, but they're not visual. They may have words and figures and details and dates and things like. They might be great with that kind of thing, whereas me, dates and numbers and people's names just get filtered, in my
Absolutely.
sieve of a brain.
I'm not great with names, dates, I forget. But music, I mean, I can pick out a piece of music from the first couple of notes and then I can play it.
Wow, that's impressive. Yeah. What I've noticed actually is that when some person has an ability, a great ability at something, there'll be something that they struggle with, in that sense, as opposed to neurotypicals, which generally, and it's very general, but they can do quite a lot of things good. I was 19 when I got diagnosed with dyslexia. But I had a best friend, and she kind of helped me quite a lot when, instead of going to the teachers, I'd go to her and say, can you read this for me? Or can we look over this for spelling? And unfortunately, she didn't go to the same university that I did. And so when I got to university, they were like, oh my goodness, are you dyslexic? And I was like, no, what's that? So I only got diagnosed then. But yeah, there is a lot more acceptance, I've noticed. But then I don't know if that's, a bit of a bias now that I'm in this world, and I've suddenly know a lot more people, because I had no idea about autism and what it really actually is. I had those preconceived stereotypical ideas in my mind of a young boy who can't speak, that kind of thing. And when I started to deep dive into it, I was like, wow, this is me. I can't believe it. And, I've never had a day that gone by when, when a thought pops in, are you though? It gets boshed so quickly because of the evidence of, I think, well, yes, look, I am.
As a creative, I think, and living in a world that is just so noisy, I think, and there are so many interruptions. It's difficult to kind of get that creative flow going. I think. I mean, I struggle with it. So how do you get into that sort of zone? I would say it's a zone, isn't it, of being absolutely in that moment.
I can hyper focus quite well. I've actually just bought myself a visual timer, because time disappears so fast when, in that hyper focus. And it's a double-edged sword, hyper focus, because, when you come out of it, you're like, oh, I need to pee. I forgot my lunch or whatever. So there are issues with it, but I absolutely I revel in my hyper focus, and I can get into it pretty much each day. long as people aren't around in the house, or if people aren't banging around in the house, or my cat's sleeping, when he sort of wants to just play with me, that's very distracting. But he has new kittens, so I do go and play with him. Turn my phone off. Actually, have you heard of Flown? Flown is an amazing platform, which I was able to get access to through Access to Work. I said that really badly, but it's a platform where you go on with other people who need to just focus on something for an hour or half an hour, whatever it is, or a deep dive for 2 hours, and everyone writes in, this is what I'm planning to do for this 1 hour. And then there's maybe a break in the middle where she kind of wakes us up, hyper focus, and you sort of have a stretch or whatever, and then right back to it. And then you go for another half hour, and you get what you want to achieve done. And you've got a whole bunch of people looking, what they're not looking at you. This is weird, because you think, oh, everyone's going to be looking at me. No one's looking at you at all. They're just really aware that they're in a group and accountable somehow. And yeah, I really promote Flown to a lot of people who struggle with the focus like that. But for me, the ADHD medication has been absolutely phenomenal. It's really given me my life back. Because I really struggled to do any kind of work. I actually was medically retired from the police because of my chronic pain, and so I didn't really work for a while. And it was only this last year that I was diagnosed with ADHD, and although it still comes with its difficulties, it's the symptoms have been massively improved with my attention, focus, um, and massive reduction in impulsive behaviours. Credit card balances are a lot lower.
Talk to me about Beyond the Ordinary, because I know you've been involved in writing a chapter for the book.
Yes, I have.
How has that process been for you?
When Mandy Nicholson is a creative genius consultant, and I'm on her Ultimate Creative Mastermind course, and she's helping me and other neurodivergent people build their businesses. And so when she announced this, I was excited, but everything in me was like, oh, I don't want to write. Oh, words. Oh, no, I don't want to do that. And then I was thinking, oh, yeah, I know, it's something that I perhaps want to be involved with, but maybe someone else can write it for me. I went down that whole and then I thought, you know what? Come on, Jo, it's only a couple thousand words. You can do it. You can do it. Well, I really struggled, to be honest. And my husband read through it and tweaked a few things. And I had a friend called Samantha, and she helped me too. And then I've handed it in. So it's ready to go. It's about my story, and well, in 2,000 words. I've probably said more in 2,000 words now on this podcast. But in a nutshell, it kind of shows my journey and 30 other women's journeys who are neurodivergent and creative.
For those people who are listening, if you want to find out a little bit more about Beyond the Ordinary, you can head to the show notes and you can click on the link and it will take you to promotions. It must be really hard to distill your journey into those 2,000 words. I think I'd struggle with summarizing, my journey through the wilderness. But I think what it will do is inspire other people for sure, and to provoke discussion, and about the role that neurodiversity plays within creative expression. I think that's the key thing for me that I'm sort of learning and trying to understand a little bit more. We've just got so much to offer, all of us, we've got so much to bring to the table. What's the next step for you now? Because I know you have your Paperly UK, don't you?
Yes, so this is a new venture for me. It's only been 3 months that I've been on Etsy, Paperly UK, and I'm selling gorgeous, gorgeous handmade and speciality papers from Thailand and India, and I just absolutely love them. I'm photographing another shipment that's come in this afternoon, so they should be going up in the next few weeks onto Etsy and my listings. But the customers are just delightful, and there's sometimes say, "Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful! I don't want to cut it. I don't want to tear it." I can relate, because some of them, especially the marbled ones at the moment, are just so gorgeous, really. So yes, I'm doing that, which is kind of half my time, and then the other time is spent doing I'm doing some branding for people, but I really want to get much more focused on the surface pattern design, and that's really where I'm going to be going in the next 6 months.
Yeah, it's exciting. It feels like, you've finally sort of, found that path, and you're walking down it, and you're embracing all of these opportunities and making those opportunities. I think, we come back to the card that we picked out earlier at the start of the conversation. Life isn't about finding yourself and that path, it's about creating yourself and that path, and you're absolutely, the embodiment of that, I think.
I do think it starts with how you identify with yourself and knowing yourself, because if you really don't, how can you make the right choices? And as someone who's autistic, neurodivergent, I wasn't able to understand really who I was, or understand what the choices were for me, and therefore I made some of those choices weren't right at all. I didn't have a guiding light, if you like, of who I am and what I should be following. That my likes and dislikes were sort of squashed, really. "No, you shouldn't like that. Why do you like that?" My cuddly toys, for example, that I love, "Why would you like those as an adult? That's not the sort of thing to do." Or other things that, I've got an interest in, have been people have just given me funny looks about things, so I've just kept to myself about what I shouldn't like, and my likes and dislikes. But you learn it at school. What do you like? Write a list of all the things you like. What do you really dislike? And I, for example, really dislike touching an orange, or peeling an orange, or touching a banana skin. Those sort of things really, really sensorially bother me massively. But I was told that, "Stop being silly. That's ridiculous. It's just an orange, pull yourself together. Stop being sensitive." All of this, if you can imagine, all of my life. But now I'm like, "I'm not touching that bloody orange ever again." I can be me. I can dress how I want to. I can wear comfortable clothes because it's soft on my skin, and things like that. So yeah, I think knowing who you are, and certainly if you are neurodivergent, understanding who you are and your own identity will help you to make those better choices, like it has for me. And now I'm doing things that I wake up every day and I'm like, wow, I can do this again, and I'm really happy to do, whereas I didn't have that before. So yeah, it's great.
Today we talked to Jo about the journey of education and creativity, explored navigating the complexities of career choices and challenges, and discussed the vital importance of embracing one's identity to truly find that unique creative voice. As you reflect on today's episode, here are just a few prompts to consider. How has your educational journey influenced your creative expression? What challenges have you faced in your career, and how did they shape the creative professional you are today? In what ways do you feel that embracing your identity can enhance your creativity? And can you identify elements of your unique voice that differentiate your work from others? Remember that your creative journey is ongoing, and finding your voice is just the beginning. What if the very challenges that you face today are the key to unlocking your most authentic self? Don't forget to tune in next week. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Until next time, stay wild.